Christina Pushaw is the press secretary for Governor Ron DeSantis. She joins us now. Christina, so good to see you. I'm happy that you are with us. And I have to say, it looks like voters, there is a huge bit of common ground that independents and conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, and even people who are identifying as Democrat, they are finding the message of people like Republican Governor DeSantis, people like Glenn Youngkin and others so much more attractive than the Terry McAuliffe fighting with Trump and parents don't have rights over their kids. I wanted to get your reaction to everything that we saw last night.
Right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said one of the kind of the hallmark of McAuliffe's campaign was saying basically, do you want to be like Florida or like California? Now, I work for the governor of Florida now, but I'm originally from California. And I can tell you, there is absolutely no comparison. I would choose Florida any day of the week and twice on Sunday because it's common sense. It's not about being a Republican, being independent, or being a Democrat. It's about, do you want to have control over your own choices, your own kids' education, health choices, or do you want to be mandated to get injections? Do you want to be mandated to wear a mask everywhere or for your kid to cover their face for 8 hours at school? I think it's just like America's built on freedom. And I think America's back as of last night. The American people in Virginia and in other states as well stood up to this biomedical security state, stood up to this regime and just said enough.
Yeah, they did. They did indeed. And you're right. Things changed last night and you could feel it. You could see it. Just in New Jersey, the fact that it's like barely 1%, you got Murphy up above Jack Hiratelli. That's huge. Republicans were not supposed to be competitive in deep blue Biden country. And looking at this, it's not just, that Republicans had great voter turnout, Christina, but as you know, they were joined by a lot of people who just were done buying what Democrats were selling them. And talk to us a little bit about that as well, because I know people who are Democrat, not anymore. They've been red-pilled literally within the past 12 months, that have moved from New York to Florida, California to Florida. We kind of joke, my husband and I, because we're trying to see like how many of our friends we can lure to Texas, and we've lost 2 so far to Florida. So I am holding that against you. But for the purposes of this interview, I'm going to drop it right now. But there's something that's attractive to that. People love the freedom, and they're Democrats. These are people who voted Democrat.
Right, absolutely. Because, at the end of the day, what unites us as Americans is that we care about individual rights. We care about freedoms. We do not believe that public schools, teachers, school board members, or politicians own our kids and our families. We believe in parents' rights. And so I think all of this stuff just transcends political parties. One amazing statistic I saw, in addition to the fact Virginia went 10 points for Biden last year, exactly a year later, that's like a 13, 14-point swing. But among Latinos and Hispanics in Virginia, they went 2/3 for Biden last year. Now it's 55% voted for Youngkin. So these are not all Republicans. These are people either who were Democrats or maybe independent, maybe apolitical, but just got motivated after, disastrous first year of the Biden administration. Not only the COVID security state nonsense that has done nothing, by the way, to actually stop the spread of the virus, but also just the economic collapse that we're seeing and how Biden refuses to take any responsibility for anything. He's constantly trying to blame our Governor DeSantis in Florida, as well as your governor in Texas, and pretty much any governor of a red state who's trying to make progress on conservative priorities. Biden will just blame them for whatever is going wrong in the country that really rests on the shoulders of his own administration and his own policy failures.
I love the phrase that you used, biomedical security state, because I know that Phil Kerpen and many others who've been looking at the data for this, they compare the results from Florida at one point to that of California or that of New York. And Florida, wide open, still faring better than California or New York, which locked everybody down, shut businesses. And I just remember everyone was going at Ron DeSantis at one point was public enemy number one because people wanted to really hang all of that on him while they were praising Andrew Cuomo. Well, as it turns out, he had really good medical advisors around him. And it was correct. Now, Florida, from what I understand in terms of transmissions and hospitalizations, is at the bottom of the list. That's from the New York Times. That bastion of conservatism. The New York Times writes this. So where are all of the people who are slamming Ron DeSantis? Why aren't they going after all of these other governors, Democrat governors now, that have, they can't explain away their high hospitalization or transmission rates, yet they had lockdowns and mandatory masks.
Right. I mean, that's a great observation. And yes, that's correct. Florida is the lowest in the country in terms of new COVID cases right now, in terms of cases per capita, and in terms of transmission. We are actually at maybe a third of the level of California right now, 1/5 of the level of Michigan, which also had a lot of lockdowns and restrictions and everything with their governor. But that just goes to show you all of that is unnecessary. Now, the New York Times did note that in their tracker of all the COVID cases in the country. They update every day. They don't write stories about it, though. Nobody's reporting that on CNN. Remember, when President Trump was in office last year, every death from COVID was blamed directly on him and his administration. The CNN death counter going up, that was implied to be directly his fault somehow. And then, of course, we found out in the last few months that a lot of the deaths, particularly in the very beginning in New York City, a lot of them were directly Cuomo's fault or the fault of other Democrat governors who sent COVID patients into nursing homes and actually covered up the deaths, which is what they accused DeSantis of doing. He did not do that. Nobody's ever found evidence of that, but it's all projection with Democrats. Unfortunately, that's what we're seeing, and the media just backs them up, pushes these narratives, does not investigate anything that Democrats say. They take it face value. And so, we're proud that Florida shows you do not need these lockdowns, mandates, forced vaccination, any of this stuff in order to bring the cases down. The virus moves in a seasonal pattern. The best thing the governor can do, which our governor did and your governor did as well, is to make early treatment available to everyone. People are going to get COVID. Even vaccinated people get COVID. Half the people at our state treatment sites report that they're fully vaccinated. So this happens, we know. So we want everyone, vaccinated or not, to have access to life-saving treatment. And that's what Governor DeSantis did with the monoclonal antibody sites.